No, there was no.
No,
I think
You don't know.
I don't. Hi, Ralph. Don't throw it.
Mike, I wasn't sure if you wanted to call the meeting to order.
Why don't you have, looks like you have both in the room. I'm sorry I'm not there yet. I've been stuck in traffic all afternoon coming back from Pennsylvania, so we're still in traffic now. If someone else could just follow the agenda, that would be easier than me trying to do it on cell phone. And then I'll just contribute conversation where I need to.
Ralph, you got the con.
I have the con, okay. It's July 1 at 7:25 p.m. I'm going to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Mr. McCoo is on the road. He's online. Andy, Marco, and myself, Ralph Tillis, are in the building. And I'd like to invite everyone to join us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Hopefully this will be calmer. Next item on the agenda is present to speak. Peter
Tonight, 125 Mason Road, speaking calmly. I am very happy to see that you have a present to speak. It's part of a democracy where the famous painting with people standing up and being able to speak is important, and I think that was missing at the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online who would like to add to the conversation tonight? I don't see anyone online. Nick?
The Nickel Murder Road, some comments I have already written here. So I'm speaking tonight because the Board of Selectmen are gonna be in a position here to send this referendum to town meeting and all that. So that being said, the Board of Selectmen also, from my understanding, can send this back to the Board of Finance, based on conversations I've had. The taxpayers, are willing to have now rejected this budget of Board of Education budget 3 times. That should send a clear message to everyone that the residents believe that the tax increase is simply too high. After the second referendum failed, the Board of Education reduced, the Board of Finance had reduced the proposed school budget by only $50,000 before asking the taxpayers to vote again. The third referendum, it
was 100.
No, after the second, it was.
After the first, it was 100. After the second, it was 50.
That's what I said.
All right.
Yeah. By only 50,000 before asking the taxpayers to vote again. The third referendum then failed by essentially the same margin, which is where we are now. To me, that demonstrated the voters were not being heard. Now, the Board of Finance has chosen not to allow any public participation before it forwards another budget that still carries 4.37 taxing.
No.
Just so I'm not yelled at here, approximately 4.37 using this sheet that was handed out.
No, they would have 78,000,
Correct.
so 4.2%.
Okay, I stand corrected, 4.2%, still over 4.
No conversation amongst the audience.
But I appreciate her correcting it. So I stand corrected, it's still over 4%, 4.2%. I find that incredibly disappointing. When taxpayers rejected 3 budget proposals, the response should be to invite more public input, not eliminate it altogether. Government should be trying to understand why people continue to vote no, not making it harder for them to explain it. Over the past several months, I've spent dozens of hours speaking with countless residents before these referendums and during voting days. While people had different opinions about where the reductions should come from, the message was overwhelmingly consistent. The proposed tax increase is simply too high. It wasn't even really about the Board of Education, it was more so about the tax increase. Now, at the end of the day, the Board of Education is on the table driving that, right? So they're causing this here. But at the end of the day, the proposed tax increase is simply too high. Personally, I believe annual tax increases and going forward, we should say, hey, you know what, we're gonna do, I would love 2%, but no more than 3%. We're gonna do 3% tax increase and let's divide it amongst the departments appropriately. Even, so as members of the Board of Selectmen, you have the responsibility of deciding whether this proposal should be sent back to the people. I respectfully ask you to consider whether another referendum on a budget that still reflects a proposed 4.2% tax increase truly reflects what taxpayers have been asking for. Please send a message that the people of Wellington have been heard. Ask for the budget that demonstrates meaningful compromise before asking taxpayers to vote again. Now, at the end of the day, I want to see it way lower, but anything above 4%, you're going to get a massive pushback, especially after they just had no input. I think one of the legs to stand on here, because I know there's a lot of reluctancy to send it back to the Board of Finance. I get it, but there's a huge thing. They had no public input, as I've said multiple times. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brunel.
Bill Linnell, Red Oak Hill Road. I would like to say that I think the town people have had some input. They voted it down. So therefore, the Board of Finance has decided to raise the additional cuts that were proposed tonight. The total of the two cuts reflect the need for an increase, or the request for an increase of over $100,000. They add up to $127,000 over the last two. And also the idea of being able to maintain budgets below the rate of inflation necessitates understanding that the money has to come from somewhere else. Because you can't make things cost less than inflation.
Thank you.
Hi, Sarah Parcell, 75 Timber Lane. I just want to say thank you to all the hardworking people who come to these meetings all the time, my husband being one of them. And I think something that's missing from this equation is actually talking about kids. And there's a lot of people hurting in this community. There's a lot of people who are having such a hard time paying the taxes, and I really feel for them. And that just shows me that we should do better by the kids for our education. I'm not saying to raise the taxes, but I'm just saying keep those kids in mind. When public officials say that they're anti-public education, that's fine. That's fine if they feel that way, but there are children involved. Their education is involved. That's honestly what I care about. That's what I care about, and I feel like this community, the adults here who speak, we should talk about the children more. We should talk about the families that are hurting, that deserve a good education. We don't live in a community like Greenwich, and we don't want to live in, no offense to Greenwich, but we don't want to live in a community like that. But we want our kids to have the best that they can have. And that doesn't mean all the bells and whistles. It just means everything in place to give them the best success in life. So I just want to thank all the people who are rooting for our kids sincerely. This has nothing to do with the school, building a new school. It has to do with their education in the here and now, not in the future. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Philip Tinsix.
Peter Latinchich, 97 Fast Road. I'm probably echoing what was said earlier, but the earlier Board of Finance meeting was quite disappointing. And it kind of illustrates the problem we've had throughout the budget process. Somehow, as the three referendums show us, all of them failing, town boards are not listening to our residents. We heard tonight during the Board of Finance meeting, and I just jotted down some of the comments that were passed, that the voters didn't understand what inflation is. the voters didn't understand what the budget even is. We were told that taxpayers are voting on emotion. Obviously, the voters are held in very low esteem. That's not a good equation to get to a solution where we can have a budget that works for everyone. And that's not happening. I came to the public hearing, which this year, because of some unforeseen circumstances, didn't allow the town to even understand what the budget was. Myself and others advocated for additional public hearings, more public input, so we can understand this and not have to go to successive, referendums. It would be better if we could come to a consensus in a public forum like the public hearing. If there's resistance to the budget, it should go back to the Board of Finance. We never have that opportunity because we're always in this logjam where we have to get to the next date, as you're preparing to do tonight. I would strongly urge that you do schedule a public hearing to avoid a fourth referendum and allow the townspeople to participate in the process, something that's not happened throughout this budget this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess the question, and I'd like Mike to chime in on this conversation.
You might have to speak up a little, Ralph.
All right, I'm sorry. I'm looking at my paper. Yeah, sheet here. So I want to make sure that Mr. McCoo's in this conversation as well, even though he's trying to navigate travel. We have a draft town meeting call that hasn't been formally printed. We have no idea whether or not it is going to be a public hearing on this budget before the referendum. I'm not sure.
Doesn't it go right to town meeting?
Ralph, are we in present to speak? Ralph, are we in present to speak?
No, we're moving on to new business, Mike.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you call new business. I was trying to keep track of where we were. Thank you.
I didn't specifically say that, Mike. Sorry.
Okay. We're good. I'm with you.
Okay.
Well, for the record, we're speaking with new business now. Right? Well, I guess we're on item B.
No, for it. Well, we pretty much.
What's there to talk about with item A?
Nothing really.
We know what the referendum overview is.
We proposed that budget failed by 45 votes.
45 votes, and the Board of Finance has come up with a new number of, if I'm reading it right, it's the third column down on the red and green, or white and green sheet. Total would be, correct me if I'm reading it wrong, 77,932. I believe that was the number that was presented.
The reduction the reduction and the increase.
Yeah, the reduction in the increase. So our role in this, as I read the state statutes and reviewed our role is that we set the mill rate to allow laying of tax.
Yes, that should be our primary goal tonight, I believe.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, if I read it correctly, that the budget then reverts to the one of the sentences within the statute, or at least the interpretation of the statute, I don't have it in front of me, was that we revert back to the prior year's budget. There's no specific case law referencing failed referendums, but as of July 1, we don't have a budget, so to operate, we would set the mill rate based on, we have two past budgets. We have the Region 19 and town operating budget, those have passed.
Correct.
And as if I'm interpreting it correctly, then we would revert back to the full budget from last year to basically what we call, even though we're in 26, it's called the 2026 budget. Right?
I was always confused when we just use a single year for fiscal year.
I know. It's right, but it's
Is it 25, 26, or
right,
26,
26,
27?
27. So,
And I wish we would continue to use 6-27 to
Yeah.
avoid any
but
confusion.
in most references, so that's as I understand the statute, I understand what our responsibility is. We take the budgets that have passed, use those, add in the last year, because this is simply to keep the town operating for until, this is in absentia, this discussion does not include what the Board of Finance just did.
That's
We're
correct.
not part of that, because that is,
That is correct.
that's a totally different animal that's moving forward to the legislature, people, who will decide where that goes. What our role is tonight, as I understand it, is to set a mill rate based on 2 past budgets and last year's budget operating plan for K through 8.
For K to 8, correct.
And I don't know, Sherry's not here to speak to that, but we add those together. There was something, oh, you know what?
No, I printed a email.
I thought I did too. I guess that's just on my phone. She has. Yes, please. Right so far?
Yes, everything you said is correct. And the chart that you got by email this afternoon that I asked Sherry to prepare shows 2 scenarios. It shows the original, it shows the budgets that you mentioned for the new fiscal year that have already been approved. And it adds in the previous fiscal year education budget.
Right, just as, hold on, just as I'm looking at this, hold on, just a clarification, as I'm looking at this, what we're talking about fiscal year 2026 budget was what was approved in 25, 26, correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
That's
That's
last-
what I want to, go ahead.
Yes.
Hey, just want to make sure we're all on the same. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to simplify it for everyone who's listening also, that the fiscal year that just ended yesterday, that is the last education budget approved by the taxpayers.
Correct.
So we use, as you said already, we use the last one on the advice of the town attorneys, multiple phone calls. We use that number as our basis for the math. We are not approving the coming year starting today. We are not approving the Board of Ed budget at that number. We are not setting that budget. We're not guiding that conversation at all. We're purely using it. We're using the previous year for math reasons only.
Correct.
When you plug that in with the approved budgets, general and the high school, you come up with a number that would lead us to a certain mill rate, which is the first chart, the upper chart of the 2. However, because of the unique legislation this year, where at the end of the session, the legislators sent us more money, they specified in the legislation that that money has to be added to what we all know as the MBR, the minimum budget regulation or rule or requirement or whatever it is. So the MBR, we cannot go below the NBR. The MBR is last year's approved budget plus the special money sent from the legislature. So that leads to the lower chart of the 2. And when you use that math, you come out with a mill rate of 26.3. So based on the attorney's guidance, our likely decision would be, if we agree tonight, we would set it at 26.3, which would immediately tomorrow start the assessors and the revenue collectors in doing a whole bunch of administrative work to get the tax bill produced and mailed so that we can start getting revenue in August, when we will be just about out of reserve money to pay the town's bills. So that's the pressure for us to act tonight. I will add one thing to the discussion. There is the difference between that 26.3 and the potential mill rate based on the adjustment made tonight by the Board of Finance is only 0.19. So the proposal that we will presumably make into a call for the town meeting later in our agenda tonight, if it made it through referendum and passed, would potentially create a mill rate of 26.49. Those are very close. And because of all the administration and the fact that we were going to have to send out a second set of tax bills, part of me would like to set it tonight at 26.49 in the hopes that that's what gets passed, so we don't have to send two sets of tax bills. Of course, the risk is if that doesn't get passed and something is cut further, then we'd have to refund money to the taxpayers. So I think, having thought that all out loud, my mind is to go back to interpreting, to not trying to interpret what the lawyers told us and just stick with the 26.3 that the lawyers told us, which is just based simply on the math. So that's all my input for discussion. Let me know your thoughts.
Okay, we're not approving any budget. All we're doing is setting the mill rate so that we can continue the revenue stream to keep the government running.
Yes,
So,
correct. We're not approving or even endorsing a particular budget.
that's correct. So my take on this is I don't think, I don't even like the adding in the 138,264, because to me, that's just, the math is accounting math, which it's not engineering math, so I don't get it sometimes.
Yeah,
It's political math. You're going to have to get used to it.
Well, I'm reading this now, and I now that we've talked about it, Connecticut's minimum budget requirement prevents towns from cutting their local education spending compared to the prior year. Its main goal is simple. Towns cannot use state school aid to replace their own local funding. This ensures state funds truly boost school resources. So if that's true, if we are looking at that top line, 2609, if pre-K through 8 education last year, with what was approved by the voters was 10,014,754, and we approved that, we're not violating the terms of the NBR. We're simply putting into effect an operating plan so we can write checks and pay our bills until a referendum is passed. We haven't reduced it. We've kept it exactly the same. And as I read the NBR, am I interpreting the NBR correctly?
I don't want to throw.
You are interpreting the MBR correctly. However, as I already said, special legislation is black and white. You have to add the additional money sent by the legislature to your MBR. You cannot, by law, go below the previous approved plus the special legislative money, which is what puts us in the lower chart.
But we're not going below it. We're doing it exactly the same. I think that's the part I'm confused about.
No. Yeah.
What am I missing?
What you're missing is this 138,264 came into the budget before June 30th.
Oh, it did.
As part of, am I correct, Mike? That legislation.
Yes, that was sent to the towns.
Okay, that is the part I was missing.
That's
so
right.
138,000 became part of the Board of Ed budget prior to
the close of fiscal year.
Prior to the close of fiscal.
No, again, we're trying to reinterpret it. It doesn't matter. What matters is when that was approved, the legislature put a specific clause that says on your new budget process for this year, you cannot go below the total of your previous year plus the special money. Black and white.
Does the E.O. Smith budget count in that? Because that's part of our education budget, and they had a large increase. Does that affect, do each budget have its own MBR, or is it?
We are not. All right, who's talking right now? I can't tell on my phone.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't know whether that made an effect on it, and that might be something to take into account.
As our first selectman emeritus, contributing to the conversation.
Sorry.
Yeah, I realize that's what's happening. I'm not sure why we have to keep going over this. We cannot go below 26.3, and we are not talking about the Region 19 budget. It's not part of tonight's conversation.
Yeah, but I didn't know whether that was part of our MBR or not, because it's part of the total town education budget.
No, it is not part of our MBR
Okay,
because it's a region. It's a regional budget. Has its own rules.
thank you.
Okay, so to get this moving here, I make a motion to set a temporary mill rate for the town of Wellington for fiscal year 2026, 2027 at 26.30.
I second.
Any discussion?
Only that, what we previously said needs to be, will be part of the record, but yes, now that I understand the NBR, and that has to be added into our total education budget, even though it is greater than what the voters approved last year, I understand the legislature well,
Yes, and there,
and I understand the intent of the legislature.
okay, any further discussion?
Yes, I agree. It's a little difficult and frustrating. And like I said before, it's not engineering math, it's political math because decisions were made and legislation was written. On the positive side, we got some more money into the revenue stream, which was obviously important. So we're stuck with how it was ascribed to be.
Yes, the unfortunate thing is it ratcheted up the MBR a little bit.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, call for the vote, all in favor?
Andy Marco says yes.
Mr. McCoo
Mr. McCoo says yes.
and Mr. Dooley says yes. So
26.3.
26.0.
So
Okay.
when it comes to the call for the town meeting, again, I apologize for not being in the room. I am hoping that Hannah was able to get the figures she needed to put into the draft call for the town meeting. So then maybe we can just walk right through it. Because that number would have come from that Board of Finance decision tonight.
Yes, I was able to do that, and Ralph checked my math too.
There's engineering math. There it is.
Yeah, that's simpler math, yes, and easier to comprehend for me.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear you guys were able to do it and double check it.
Do we want to call a town meeting?
I think it is, my feeling is, as we've discussed at previous meetings, it is our responsibility. The Board of Finance, the Board of Finance makes their decisions and they send something to us. So I think it is our responsibility and privilege to now move it to the taxpayers. It's still going to take a couple of weeks to make that all happen. And then the taxpayers will have their opportunity to determine if this is the appropriate budget to approve. I don't think that we have the right knowledge, nor did we prepare to be in a position to say, no, we don't think this is right and send it back. I mean, we do hear concerns for sure in all ways. We hear concerns it needs to be reduced. We hear concerns that it's reduced too much. And we also know that these referendums are costing us a lot of money. So I think the prudent move for this board is to allow it to get to the town meeting and referendum.
Mike, do we have a regular meeting next week?
What's that?
We have a regular meeting next week, do we not?
On Monday, yes.
Okay.
Trying to recall the statute, but
Now, my concern here is that, number one, we're going to push out a town meeting call. That's not is partially handwritten, which is not necessarily a big deal. But we don't know whether or not there's going to be an opportunity for a public hearing prior to that town meeting. And the only thing that can happen at that town meeting is a discussion of what we're telling the people you're going to vote on.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's the way it's always been done.
Right, the process is limited to only a couple of steps. You're right. The next step is there's a town meeting to discuss, for the townspeople to discuss the budget. And then it sort of automatically adjourns to a referendum for the townspeople to decide if that budget is appropriate. We've discussed this at previous meetings, because obviously this is now our fourth time through calling for a referendum. So we've discussed at previous meetings that this is one arduous and lengthy budget process, which did start with a hearing. We talked about this at the last time around. It did have a hearing, and it's had way more than the normal amount of public meetings and discussions and Board of Ed meetings and Board of Finance meetings. So the premise of slowing the process down to insert another public hearing, I still, just as last time, I don't think is appropriate. It creates more delay, and it is not how we've ever done it before. I don't think it's advisable. I think we're supposed to follow the process, and the Board of Finance sent us something. They made a cut that they believe reflects some of the input they got last time and maybe didn't follow. That was what I got out of that meeting. So there's nothing defective in their decision-making process that we should be objecting to. I mean, maybe people disagree with it, but it's not defective, technically.
Regardless, we have a mill rate.
Yep.
We are setting in motion the revenue stream to keep the town operating. I don't understand that there's any great rush to push to a fourth referendum, because we're going to fund the government regardless. Why not insert that extra step before we call the town meeting?
Because we didn't insert it the last two times either.
Okay, is it wrong to insert it now?
Yeah, we had a public hearing for this budget already, and we've had ad nauseum public meetings.
With the current budget as it's going to be voted on? No, we have not. We have only witnessed a Board of Finance meeting previous to this meeting where they discussed the budget without any input at all from the public.
Yes, I understand that. However, this Board of Education budget has been discussed for the last, 3-4 months now, in multiple public meetings.
I understand. But we'll do one more. Doesn't cost us a lot of money to do a public hearing. It does cost us a fair amount of money to do a referendum.
Yeah, it costs less to do a public hearing because we don't have to pay as many people. We don't have to get the ballots printed and all that. But we still have to do like the newspaper ads are $600 each and things like that. Plus, if you call a public hearing, you then have a bunch of there's time requirements that the advertising has to be out, which will push off this entire process significantly. You know, you're going to put out another you probably push this out 2 weeks or more.
Well, can you explain the difference to me? What's the difference between a town meeting and a public hearing?
The town meeting, what do we have? We have 3 sections. We have discussed the budget.
Okay, if we have a public hearing,
Okay.
what's it gonna be about?
We discussed the budget, but we cannot wait. We cannot tweak the budget in that discussion.
Why do you think that?
Because I'm told that's the way the call is written, and that's the way it's supposed
Is
to
the
be.
call written that way? I don't see that the call is written that way. The call is written following the statute I don't remember it now. I mentioned it in prior meetings. There is a statute that covers the annual budget meeting.
Yes,
You've read it.
you and I have discussed that, Andy, but others disagree with us.
Well, okay.
And we get pushback every time we do that in the town meeting.
Based on the state statute, I see that the annual town budget meeting, as outlined in the Connecticut state statute, is indeed a public hearing. And the budget can be discussed. I don't know. So I don't know what this here is. I don't really understand the difference between a public hearing and a town meeting.
So Ralph, as a point of discussion, assuming either we're at the first hearing in the normal process or we insert a hearing now, regardless, if we're at a public hearing discussing the budget, that public hearing cannot adjust the budget anyway. The Board of Finance could meet after that public hearing and make adjustments, right? Do I have the process right in my head?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so the hearing itself won't change the budget, but it might provide input that the Board of Finance would use.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So I certainly grant that that's a possibility. And I think if we hadn't been through so many iterations of this budget already, I think there could be an argument of that maybe having more value, but we're way down this road and I don't see the Board of Finance. If we call a hearing, well, I guess I shouldn't speak for them. I can't imagine the Board of Finance calling another meeting and saying, thank you, Board of Selectmen, for not sending it to the people for a vote, but we've learned enough to change it before it goes to the people for a vote. I can't imagine that doing us process-wise being any value.
Everybody wants to weigh in. We do have a present to speak. Well, we don't have a present to speak at the end.
No, there isn't.
No, there is.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Christine Sothis, Registrar of Voters. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I just want to put a few things in your timeline here. Our office is currently preparing for a primary on August 11th. 1 week before that primary is early voting. As I said, we're beginning to get ready for the primary on August 11th. My hope would be that you folks can push this along, not drag it out. It's going to be extremely difficult to do 2 voting events at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I certainly appreciate the work involved in these things, but as I'm hearing these things, I don't feel that we can, I'm not comfortable saying things like, oh, well, it's dragged on for so long, or it's too hard, it's too difficult to do one more public hearing. The public is speaking to us. We may not agree with what the conclusions that certain members of the public are making. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's fair to say they're not informed or they don't know what's going on. I mean, it's easy to say, well, you don't understand because you don't agree with me. That's a lazy argument.
Right.
So I don't like that.
We're not saying any of that.
No, but I have heard that said. People don't understand that they're not informed. That's not, I don't think that's true. Just like I said, just because I don't agree with just because someone doesn't agree with me doesn't mean they don't know what they're talking about. So I'm a taxpayer. I don't have kids in school. I don't play pickleball. I don't use the facility down on Route 32. I don't belong to the senior center. I have a 4-wheel drive truck and I'm retired. I don't need to drive on the roads if they're snowing. Most of the services that the town offers, I don't take advantage of. But I belong to a community which does matter to me. And those things make a better community, and I'm willing to pay for them, and I understand that. I mean, I'm, three generations through Willington schools. And I'm very proud of the Willington school system, the way they've treated my family through those generations. So I don't mind paying for that. But the townspeople, the legislature's spoken. And if we say then we don't have the time to inform, we don't have the time to let them speak, it's too arduous. If it gets voted down again, we're right back to where we are today, and the voters, the legislature will have spoken again, and it's 45 votes. That's the 45 people can make a huge difference, and I have to respect what they're saying.
Andy,
So
I understand your point completely, but we're not saying, I'm not arguing against a hearing because I think it's too hard or any of these other things. I'm arguing against a hearing because I really believe it's not necessary. Secondarily, it creates some problems. It does create more delays. It jams up the registrars significantly who are part-time employees. It has budget impact. It could further delay the correct level of taxation or the passing of the budget even. And it's, if all of those things were balanced by me being able to think there's a huge opportunity to educate people, then I think it's a different conversation. We have very reliable participation from a regular group of people, and then we have some new people getting introduced to it. And that all of that is good, but we had a hearing and we've had way more than the normal number of meetings. I think the appropriate thing to do is to follow the path and call the town meeting and set the referendum.
I think Mike is right, if I'm recalling, which I read that, I didn't bring the legislation with me. I don't know that we can not call the town meeting. I think that the way it's sort of written, it says the Board of Finance will state the time, we'll organize it, but it goes through the Board of Selectmen, but it's sort of like you've been voluntold kind of thing. It's not, I don't think we can not do it. I think Mike is right about that.
The thing before is our responsibility. I believe that it's our responsibility to follow that request.
I believe that is true. Right, the request was to the Board of Selectmen, but it's like, this is what you're gonna do, kids. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, just to get picky about details for a second.
Let's do it.
Verbally, we've been asked to call a town meeting.
That's true.
We have not formally been asked to call a town meeting by the Board of Finance.
That's true. It was just actually, it was a motion made and seconded and voted on with a 5-1.
If we have a regular meeting next Monday, whether we go for a public hearing or we go for a town meeting without a public hearing, what difference does it make between now and Monday?
It probably delays a week, I would say, based on the newspaper advertising. But again, if we commit a procedural error by not following the request, and I know you could argue the point you just made that it didn't come in writing, but I believe we all know that it happened. We were all in attendance at the Board of Finance meeting.
I know.
Again, just getting picky over details, Mike.
I mean, obviously we can't talk to the town attorney at this hour, but I suspect if we don't move this forward, when I call the town attorney tomorrow and say, guess what we decided to do last night? He's going to say, yeah, that's not past practice. And we also have had a lot of townspeople who actually suggested that we pre-schedule these meetings like we did tonight. to be right after the referendum so that we could move faster to referendum. And those people came to my office and said, look what Stafford does, look what other towns do. They pre-schedule a meeting. And that way they can move faster instead of having these long delays. So I think we were trying to be responsive to that.
Okay, but I guess I'm kind of wondering, call town meeting is an agenda item, meaning it has to be made, seconded, discussion, and then voted on. It isn't, I mean, if it's a mandate, I mean, am I wrong about that? It isn't an agenda item to be voted on? Because,
Yes, we always vote on the call and then we sign it. Yes, you're absolutely right.
okay, so meaning someone could say, no, I don't want to call the town meeting. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if that automatically means it goes back to anyone. It just means not calling the town meeting. We know it's got to be done because we've been requested to do it, but I'm just talking about procedural, rules of order and following proper parliamentary procedures.
No, and I think it's reasonable to talk about things, but we also have to reflect on the fact that we've been doing it a certain way for decades, and it's a past practice, and it's supported by law. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure in the middle of the heat of debate is the time for us to say, yeah, maybe we shouldn't follow past practice.
Well, just because it's been done a long time doesn't automatically make it a best practice. My own life is a pretty good example of that.
No, you're right. You're right. It doesn't make it a best practice. Absolutely. I agree with you. But past practice has a legal value to it. Maybe in this situation, maybe not. But past practice does have a legal value.
I'm also thinking that regardless of the conversations, how many we have, I'm a little bit on your side there, Mike, then. Regardless of how many public hearings and how many discussions we have, it's gonna end up at the referendum ballot box, and that's where it's gonna be decided ultimately anyway. So I'm a big believer in finding out what the townspeople want to say and what they believe and what they want. But sometimes maybe the ballot box is the only way to really discover what that is. Or under discussion.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm just wondering if there's, are there any other options? If the real desire in this conversation is to make sure that the public has had every reasonable opportunity to be engaged, do we have any other options that would not delay us getting to referendum?
I'm kind of thinking we had a public hearing, we'd see the exact same people in the audience that we saw tonight and the night before and the night before. And, much as I like hearing what the people have to say, I'm not sure we'd hear anything new.
And if we delayed this action until our next, we tabled item 4B double I,
Right.
till Monday, would we hear anything different?
I don't know.
I want to get my whole arm in there.
Then tonight,
The people that think that the budget's too high are quite vocal, and they made their points, and I think we.
would we learn anything new?
Well, that's it. Would we really learn anything new? One of the things that they're talking about budget. I mean, even I know that we're Board of Selectmen, where I think we'll be talking about it Monday. I haven't seen that agenda just yet, but we have to reduce $70,000 from the town operating budget.
Yes,
We have that.
figure out where that's.
So even though, this number, I don't know, does this new number reflect the 70,000? I can't remember.
Yes.
And so in all these, if there's talk about the townspeople can't pay for it, I haven't heard a lot of direct conversation about what should be reduced. Now, the Board of Ed is its own animal, and we don't respond to those line items. So it's kind of an easy target, but even when we talk about the town operating budget,
Road, Wellington, Connecticut.
I don't hear a lot of conversation about specific things that the townspeople are willing to give up. Because I think it is fair to say, as I've said before, if we want to do the exact same things we've been doing with costs rising, then we have to spend more. If we're not gonna spend more, then we have to do less. And that's what I don't hear, is that people saying, what are they willing to give up? And that's probably why we're here, because we've been put in this place as representative government to say, this is what you're gonna give up. But that's pretty hard. I don't like doing that, but we're gonna end up doing that. We're gonna have to give up something. And it sounds like the Board of Education is going to have to give up something in order to meet the new budget requirements. And, yeah, I don't know what else we would learn. I think we hear the same arguments, and they're good arguments, but they're not new arguments. So,
Well, like I said, all I can say about this, so just to move things along so we're not here talking about.
yeah, we keep on talking. Just for, I know when we looked at these numbers before, and no disparaging about arithmetic, but we've often got to these and the numbers weren't 100% right. But this is based on, since the other two budgets passed, where really the only thing on this call that changed was Board of Education. And that is the new number that was voted on tonight that we have here, right?
And the previous call, if you want to compare numbers.
No, I'm not, no, again, I trust you guys, I'm not arguing, just.
Yeah.
Just to be careful, all right, so. What do you want to do? Oh, I'm sorry, we're on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, stuck
So
on this.
the only other thing I could offer, guys, is that if the feeling amongst both of you is that we need another opportunity for public engagement, then I would suggest maybe a compromise, and that is continue with the call so we can get the process started and schedule a public meeting in between. Maybe don't call it a hearing for the simple reason that that invokes all the advertising delays. But you could still call another public session to discuss it. You could put it on our agenda for Monday night for an open budget discussion if you wanted to. But if we keep the clock moving on getting to the town meeting and the referendum, then we don't cause the delay there. And if something earth-shattering comes out of the public discussion, we ask the Board of Finance to have an emergency meeting.
I like that idea.
We should have an agenda item for next Monday to discuss.
Right, so if we, I'm
The Board of Ed.
let's say just for argument's sake, let's say we had a public hearing, or we had the town budget meeting, annual town budget meeting, the third annual town budget meeting would be, say, just for discussion's sake, say July 14th. Would that give us enough time, 14 days from now, to schedule a public hearing, listening session, whatever you want to call it, about the budget? And if something, as Mike said, earth shattering came out of this, would that allow enough time? I mean, the answer is yes.
Well, today's Wednesday. If we decide tonight that we want to add this to Monday's meeting, because we haven't put the agenda out yet for the Monday meeting, right? That would go out tomorrow. If we add it to the agenda for Monday to have a public discussion about the Board of Ed, the K-8 budget, we put it on our agenda for Monday night, have it either before or after or during the selectmen's meeting. And then if we feel like something comes out of it that's worth notifying the Board of Finance, we notify the Board of Finance that this happened and ask them to consider it. And then the Board of Finance can decide if they're going to take it up or not, because that's still their privilege. Even if you had a full formal hearing, the Board of Finance still has the privilege to decide whether they're going to do it or not.
I think that's a very reasonable solution. All right, so I am going to make a motion that we call the town meeting. That we call the town meeting for the town budget meeting for education.
We have a date.
Well, no, yes, I'm gonna make a motion. that we Call the town
You have to
meeting
move the call.
for education on July 14th, 2026 at 7 p.m. Old Town Hall. For the following purpose. I'll read the whole thing because I believe that's what it says. I make a motion that the town of Wellington notice and warning for the town budget meeting for education. The electors of the town of Wellington and all persons who are entitled to vote in town meeting on the matters mentioned in the following warning are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Old Town Hall at 11 Common Road in Wellington on Tuesday, July 14th, 2026 at 7 p.m. for the following purposes. To discuss the proposed education budget for the fiscal year July, no, this is, okay, never. To discuss the proposed education budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2027. Note, the general government total, which passed 6/2/26, is $7,013,713,000. The estimated education budget K through 8 is $10,274,025. The Region 19 budget, which passed 5/5/26, was $4,975,893. The total town budget will be $22,263,631. Total estimated revenues, $4,566,287. To be raised by taxation, $17,697,344. Net amount to be raised by taxation, $17,356,344.
Did you skip over the applied fund balance?
Did I? Let me reread that section. I'll start it again. Total estimated revenues, $4,466,287,000. To be raised by taxation, $17,697,344. Less applied fund balance, $341,000. Net amount to be raised by taxation, $17,356,344. Item 2 will be to set a date, not less than 7 nor more than 14 days thereafter, for a vote on the annual education budget by a separate yes or no vote on the voting machines. Item 3, to set the town office building as the polling place and to set the hours of the referendum during which votes may be cast, not less than between the hours of 12 o'clock noon and 8 o'clock p.m., and not more than between the hours of 6 o'clock a.m. and 8 o'clock p.m. Do I have a second? We have a second.
All right, I'll second for discussion.
All right. That's the call. Would be basically 14 days from today.
Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, realizing I'm wrestling with the schedule. Trying to get these things lined up right and figuring out the newspapers forces us into some dates, but I think that's also a Board of Ed meeting that night, which is probably a pretty critical conflict.
On the 14th?
Yeah. Hannah, I don't know if you could look at the calendar and see if we can move this a day without it creating a whole other kerfuffle.
Do you mean moving the town meeting?
Yeah,
Yes.
as well. So
Like
let's do it on a Wednesday, which is something we haven't done in years.
Yeah, we could do that, cause,
Is there anything scheduled for the 15th?
I'd have to check upstairs, to be totally honest with you.
I just read it in. That's why I was saying. Now we rushed into it, or we didn't rush, but now we got the date wrong.
No.
Well,
We customarily do this on a Tuesday.
I know.
It always conflicts with
Always
planning and zoning.
I know.
We're, I'm checking the town calendar right now. So
While you're-
let's keep the chief chatter going for a minute.
I hope you're not driving.
I am multitasking safely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Looks like just the Conservation Commission.
Conservation Commission?
Yeah, but that should be fine.
That's pretty important.
No, but I don't think they don't meet.
Yeah, I would agree. It looks like it's just the Conservation Commission. Andy, would you consider a friendly amendment to change that 14th to 15th?
Well, sure. I'd like to amend my motion for the Town of Wellington notice and warning town budget meeting for educations. The electors of the town of Wellington and all persons who are entitled to vote in town meeting on the matters mentioned in the following warning are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Old Town Hall at 11 Common Road in Wellington on Tuesday, July 15th. Wednesday, July 15th, 2026 at 7 p.m. for the following purposes as previously stated.
Okay.
Okay, so do we need to second that again, or you were just rereading it because of the friendly amendment?
We should have voted down the first one and then had the new one, but that's fine.
Well, we accepted it.
No such thing as last time. Okay, so we have a second on that.
All right. So I will reach out to the. I'll reach out to, can you hear me?
Yes, but we haven't voted on the motion yet.
Yes, I'm talking. I'm doing discussion on the motion.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
As part of this, I will reach out to the Board of Ed and let them know that we're doing this sort of unusual thing, in case they would like to have a representative who can help answer questions, particularly since the whole goal of this extra thing that we're doing on Monday night is to help the people have more chance to discuss this budget. Then we should make sure the Board of Ed has an opportunity to send, and I will also notify the Board of Finance chair as well. Since we're doing something weird and unique here, but maybe it'll have good effect in the end.
I don't think it's all that weird. It might be different. Okay.
It's not typical, that's all.
It's not typical.
So,
Can I add something?
Who is this?
Nicole.
who is-
It's Nicole.
Nicole.
Nick, are you speaking in your official capacity as town clerk?
Yes.
Yes, then I think then we definitely want expert opinion.
Yes.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the calendar and you guys want to change it, the town meeting on July 15th, which is Wednesday, right?
Right, that's what the motion is looking at.
Okay. So, if we have the town meeting on the 15th, a referendum has to be between 7 and 14 days after that. That means
Right.
you cannot have, if you picked like the 21st for a possible referendum, you wouldn't be able to do that because that's only 6 days. If let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, you got it.
So.
And right, what did Christine say? What she got coming up? Right.
You
That
need to have to keep-
was August, that's all. Never mind. Sorry, Nicole. Just gathering my thoughts, so.
That's okay. So if you're having the town meeting on a 15th, if you're calling a referendum after that, it has to be between 7 and 14 days.
Right.
And also no more than 15 days for the legal notice, no less than 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th day is Wednesday, the 22nd, or you'd have to do the referendums are typically always on a Tuesday. That would be the 28th. I'm just throwing that out there because I was looking at the calendar. So
They don't have to be on a Tuesday, right? No law that says they have to be on a particular day.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so that it's
never seen anywhere that has to be on certain days of the week. And
Yeah.
just, we do say in our, what did we say? It has to be, not less than 7, so it has to be between 7 and 14 days, so like you said, that between the 21st.
The 21st is the 6th day. You can't have it on the 21st. You'd have to have it on the 22nd.
22nd, the 4th, and the 14th would be the 29th.
Right.
1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Am I doing my math right?
Yep, so you'd either have to, you'd have it, the 28th is a Tuesday or the 29th if you're gonna stick with a Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah.
And does that give you enough time to do notices and everything? Like, yes, I hope is the answer.
So Hannah would put the legal notice in for the town meeting. And when we put the legal notices in, it always takes 2 days after the fact. They never run it right away.
Sure,
So
okay.
that makes a difference as well.
No.
And the thing is when we have our legal notices submitted, it has to be done before 10 o'clock in the morning, or it doesn't get posted until it gets pushed off another day.
Okay. All right. All right.
That's where we rely on our town clerk.
I know, we have excellent.
Dot all the i's and cross all the
administration.
t's.
We have excellent administration going here.
Especially when we throw them curveballs, like moving things around and different dates and Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays.
That's right, that's, keeps them on their toes, though. All right, so we're under discussion. Our town clerk has weighed in about dates, and that's important for us to consider. And, I guess my only, I don't know, not totally relevant, but I am mindful of that our registrars and might need some help if this gets pushed into their other mandates about various referendums. So we'll have to be mindful of that. So
we should vote on that.
yeah, motion's been made and seconded. I guess by roll, since we have somebody, one more, since we have somebody on the line, by roll, Andy Marco is going to say yes to having the call on July 15th.
Mike McCoo says yes.
Ralph Dillis will say yay.
All right, it is unanimous. The call town meeting is approved for July 15th, 2026 at 7 p.m. That is Wednesday, July 15th. Thank you, Nicole, for your contributions. Hannah, thank you for yours. Next is
Fun.
what?
Good welfare.
Good and welfare. What's going on with good and welfare?
I don't have anything.
I put it in just to say thank you to anyone who works in the referendum process. This is such a critical process for the townspeople, and it has been extensive this year, obviously, and it's a lot of load on them. I also wanted good and welfare to acknowledge what I posted on the town's Facebook page the other day, and that is about the 4 junior members of the 2 fire departments in town participating in the cadet camp at the Connecticut Fire Academy, where they slept at the camp and did firefighter training from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, and were not on their cell phones, even though they were 13 to 17 years old. And they represented Wellington very well. We had more cadets at the academy than any other town in the state of Connecticut. And it was acknowledged by the lieutenant governor specifically, including her calling me directly and saying Wellington should be proud of itself for doing that.
That's great news. Cool.
Anything else?
Nothing.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Third,
Yes.
aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you all.